Hi again, everybody, and welcome to our second Bengals training camp report. It is brought to you by Medical Mutual, the official health insurer of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm Dan Hoard, along with my pals, my broadcast partner Dave Lapham, and Bengals.com editor Geoff Hobson. The Bengals are practicing, at least doing walkthroughs at this point. They won't have their first practice in pads for 11 days. That's on August 17th. That's the first practice we'll be able to observe. But we have had the opportunity in recent days to talk to head coach Zac Taylor, director of player personnel Duke Tobin, and yesterday defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. Lap, I want to start with you. Based on those conversations, what's your biggest takeaway so far?
I think the biggest takeaway is that all the coaches talk about how the guys have handled the virtual meeting so well. They've had their nose in the playbook. They understand what's going on. But talking about it and spitting things back are different than going out and showing you can do it. Until you get out in the field, put on pads and show you can play, there are obviously steps to that, and those steps are going pretty well. The other thing that hit me was when Coach Anarumo said, now I had thought about this myself as a former player, all these new guys. It's like first day of school, you go out for the walkthrough, and you're looking in the huddle. It's like, who are these guys? Need to have name tags on. They're almost introducing themselves to each other. First time they actually got to see each other live and in person as such. I think that's an interesting thing. And, the other thing that's un-Bengals related, but the biggest thing that hit me during the week was the Matt Stafford, the testing where they had the false positive. So I'm thinking, and everything that his family went through with that false positive, not just him. So I'm thinking, well, if you get a false positive, what about a false negative? What if you get a false negative and you go to practice and you're asymptomatic? You don't have any symptoms, you test negative, you go to practice, you're around all your teammates, coaches, and everybody else. And it's like, wow, then all of a sudden you test positive. Oh, that was a false negative. Well, if there's false positive, can there be a false negative? I mean, this whole thing to me, the only thing you don't know, the only thing you know is what you don't know. There's no doubt about it.
We've got the dreaded frozen screen with Geoff right now. We'll try to work that out and get to Geoff shortly. Lap, let's talk about some newsworthy items where Bengals fans are concerned, beginning with Joe Mixon. The Bengals were not able to work out a contract extension with A.J. Green prior to that deadline, so they can't extend A.J. until the end of the season, but they can conceivably work out a deal with Joe Mixon. Do you feel like it's heading in that direction?
I'm hoping that it's heading in that direction because, Duke Tobin, I thought was very right on point during his meeting with the media when he said that, forget about the position. A lot of people in today's NFL, they don't value the running back as much as other positions. He said, you got to value the player. What is the player contributing to your organization? And I think Joe obviously is a guy that is an emotional leader, is a leader by performance. It's a matter of his people think he's probably closer to McCaffrey than he is to some of these other running backs that have gotten big bucks and haven't panned out. So I think Joe Mixon obviously brings a lot to the table for the Cincinnati Bengals. And training camp is, beginning stages of training camp is when they normally work these things out and announce them. But 2020 is a different animal. There's no question about that with the coronavirus and the impact that it's going to have on the salary cap. Salary cap's going down. It's a matter of how much is it going to go down. And a lot of these teams that have boldly and bravely extended players for big bucks, man, God bless them, because what's the future going to bring? It's hard to put a finger on it.
The NFL has an 4 o'clock today. There are salary cap implications there, so the Bengals will have a better grasp on just how much money they have to work with, determined by if any other players opt out. We don't know if that'll be the case or not, but that could impact the salary cap, and therefore a Joe Mixon extension would probably wait until after that deadline. We do see that we have Geoff Hobson now unfrozen, which is a good sign. And Butch, let's get to your biggest takeaways based on the conversations in recent days with Zac Taylor, with Duke Tobin, and with Lou Anarumo.
You're now seeing why I did not win a varsity letter at Framingham South. You're seeing why. I was always the interesting. I don't think there was anything shocking coming out of there. I think these guys are. I think they like what they see. There was a huge. They just made massive moves. I I think it was Lapp who asked, I think he asked Lou or Zach, do you need those, hello, my name is such and such, because, a third of the team wasn't here last year. A third of the team is parking their car in the parking lot for the first time. So, but they look, from what you hear and what they say, they seem pretty excited. I think not only about the fact that they got a pretty smart group of guys. They've had them on Zoom. They certainly know what they can do cerebrally, because that's all they've done is talk with them. But I also think it's the intangible guys that they like. I think they like the a young up and coming DJ Reader who's hungry to make the Pro Bowl. Von Bell, who's an alpha male who's just been around good teams, national champion in Ohio State, perennial playoff guy with the Saints. You got a guy like Bynes, not a great player, but a solid piece. Guy with a Super Bowl ring when he was a special teamer for the Ravens, I think in 12, and came off the bench, came off the couch. They didn't lose a game with Josh Bynes. But all he did was quietly piece their run defense together, and they didn't lose, I think, until the playoffs. So that, I think they kind of like the whiff of what they got. And then, of course, there's always the Burrow factor. He carries himself like an alpha, like the alpha dog, and they really like that.
You're right about Josh Bynes. He joined the team. They went 12-0 until they lost their playoff game to the Tennessee Titans. Which, let's talk about another newsworthy item, and that is what's going on at defensive tackle. Ryan Glasgow did not pass his physical. The team let him go. Josh Tupou opted out, so they've lost two of their depth pieces at defensive tackle. What do you think they do?
I think they got to go get another guy. I mean, I think they like Wren, but he's unproven, and he's still kind of a project, the fourth rounder out of Arizona State. So I think they're going to be on the hunt for a veteran. I think a young veteran. I don't think they're looking to bring in a 32-ish guy in here. And I think they're going to take their time. I think they're at 80 right now, and given the rules, they can't even bring in a guy for a workout if they got a full roster. So I would expect them to make a move to at least be freed up so they can do that. I think it's going to take a while, though. I think the hard thing is they don't have any tape from preseason games, because obviously there's no preseason games. And they're sitting there with the number one waiver claim, which is too bad, because, again, they won't have any tape to go off of. But I think this is a move that might come later rather than sooner, but I think it's definitely one that they're going to probably make to find a veteran backup D tackle.
Lap, I remember talking to you in the past about the first practice the year after your Super Bowl appearance, Super Bowl 16, and that very first practice after the famous 49ers goal line stand in Super Bowl 16. Forrest Gregg, right off the bat, goal line, full contact, hammer practices that left you feeling paralyzed the next morning. We've heard Zach Taylor talk in recent days, and Lou Anarumo as well, about the possibility of old-time scrimmages in practice this year, since there are no preseason games. Is that what it's going to take to get ready for the physical nature of football?
Well, I think, Lou was asked, and he addressed many times about the tackling issues they had defensively last year. And, he's right. The first thing you have to do is have proper angle, and there's techniques involved with that and the mental part of it. But then it's the physical nature of being that you want to get the guy on the ground. You take the proper angle, you take the proper approach, everything else that goes along with it. But then you have to go through the physical process of it. And yeah, Dan, what a nightmare that was, that first practice after Super Bowl 16. Forrest Gregg, we stretched. We did his famous up downs, the Green Bay, run in place, hit the ground, jump up, run in place, hit the ground. We did like 90 of them, 3 sets of 30 in full pads. Everybody's tongue is hanging to the ground. And then we run a lap, and he blows the whistle, brings everybody together. He goes, "This will never happen on my watch again. That's embarrassing. Goal line, stand, live, scrimmage right now." It's like, oh, here we go. I mean, it was like, you got your neck shortened, and then, you went to bed that night, woke up the next morning. It's like, oh, man, got a whole training camp left. But he definitely proved his point. And I do think that they are going to have to, with no preseason games whatsoever, veterans didn't really, play that much during the preseason, but they got some live reps in there. You're going to have to put guys in live rep situations. It's interesting. In this year of the coronavirus, social distancing is what everything's about. Well, that's all what football is. Football's creating space by formation. You spread people out, try to get them on an island, social distance them. I mean, if you can create space in the running game by double teaming a guy and rubbing to another guy, you create space for the running back to make. So, I mean, you have to be able to go tackle a guy, get off a block, and tackle a guy in space. And that's what everybody has to show, defensively. And then offensively, obviously, you want to make that first guy miss. And until you start doing that in live situations, over the years, at training camp had half line drills where from the center to the tight end on the right side of the formation was totally live. Linebackers, offensive line, fullbacks, safeties, no cornerbacks, no wide receivers, no edge blocking stuff. But in between the hash marks, it was live. And we do it right and left side and then do full line, 7-on-7. I don't know if they're going to do those kind of drills necessarily, but I do think a good part of, quote, team practice will be thump and not just thump, and then take them to the ground.
Butch, you wrote extensively about the health and safety protocols that the Bengals are following to try to pull this off. And it's really incredible the lengths that NFL teams are going to. The Bengals have been very proactive when it comes to the quarterback position. Right now, they've got 4 on the roster. They added Brandon Allen last week, who started a couple of games for the Broncos last year. And they have these 4 guys in separate rooms when they have their Zoom meetings to keep them apart. The closest thing they can do to quarantining right now.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, and it's just not meetings. I think they're keeping them apart through all the other activities. I think, like when they walk through, I think they make sure that Allen isn't standing nowhere near Finley, Dogala, and Burrow. So it's going beyond those Zoom meetings. How it's going to play out, because at some point they're going to have to take a snap and throw the ball to a receiver. They're going to have to practice. So how they do that, and I think maybe that evolves. We'll see that during the season. I think is they may practice in groups. They may. Like I think Lapham mentioned this last week, they may send out, group 1, group 2 to practice, and they'll split them up that way. But it'll be interesting to see how many quarterbacks they keep. But the overall protocol is this could be one of the safest places in Hamilton County. I mean, they got you, in order to get in here, you got to be locked down. And from what I understand, the tests have been going pretty well. So, I mean, they got these chips. And since I'm in here, I got a chip. And if, it's like if you guys remember Lost in Space, not many people do. Lap might, but I
remember that.
Yeah. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger, Will
That's
Robinson.
Right.
You kind of need that. You kind of get the thing that flashes red. You're standing too close. So and you got to mask up and everything like that. And people are doing what they're supposed to do. So right now it's going well. But I mean, I guess the next question is what happens when they're practicing 11-on-11 and stuff like that. But certainly the things that they have to do, they're doing it.
Well, we look forward to seeing you and seeing practice. We're still 11 days away from being able to do that. August 17th is the big day where the Bengals and other NFL teams will be allowed to be in full pads, and that will be our opportunity to sit in a different spot than we've been in the past to watch practice, but we're looking forward to that. In the meantime, our training camp reports will continue. For Dave Lapham and Geoff Hobson, I'm Dan Hoard. Thanks for checking out this Bengals training camp report on Bengals.com.